Holy shit, guys. I am in utter shock right now, honestly. I'm not gonna lie to you. This episode was truly stunning. Guys, this is gonna be our review for the mid-season premiere of The Vampire Diaries, Season 7, Episode 10, Hell is Other People, not Hell is for Other People. I keep thinking it's called that. It's called Hell is Other People. Okay. Now, I've really tried to enjoy this season. I've been very critical, I know that, and if you guys are upset that I've been critical, I'm sorry, but there have been things that have really pissed me off this season, because what's happened this season that it seems like we're getting somewhere and then they drop something really quickly, or they start something and then no, they contradict it, and they find ways to make it less interesting. And I really was thinking that this show was gonna go downhill, and especially with it moving to Friday, I'm like, okay, it's doomed, it's gonna get canceled. However, this was everything I've wanted all season. This is the episode, guys. This is finally an episode where I can say I am completely satisfied with everything that in this episode. I have no complaints with this episode whatsoever. And without a doubt, this was not only one of the best episode of the season, without a doubt, it is, I think, one of the best episodes we have ever gotten of the show. I have never seen a Vampire Diaries episode like this, and I mean that, I really do. And Ian Somerhalder, I have to say, I truly feel he is Emmy-worthy in this episode. I mean, he's given some amazing performances on the show, but nothing quite like this. He really, really sold it in this episode, and I really loved everything about this. But let's just get in this episode because it was incredible, and I can't get over how great it was. I mean, I can't believe that I'm so stunned over a Vampire Diaries episode, but I really am. And it's very hard to do that, especially in this season, but you know what? They did it. Like I said, I think this is one of the best episodes they've ever done. One, because it was character-driven, and it stuck to one plot, and I love that. So, basically, it all as we know, at the end of the mid-season finale, Damon and Stefan both got into the Phoenix Stone, and they're both in, like, the worst moments of their life, it seemed, and as we know, Damon got back to the Civil War, which is the one moment of his life he does not want to remember, and we see an injured Damon wakes up to dead bodies and chaos. He turns around, and right away he sees Lily, and a blasting goes off, she disappears, obviously it's not real, and another soldier is calling for his help, and I at first thought that this was a flashback, that okay, we're going to see a flashback of Damon's wartime. That's what I thought we were going to see here, and he's able to easily lift the wagon that was trapping the soldier. He awakes at the camp to see the man he saved and a letter from his brother, and of course the letter is from Stefan, who's telling the story of how Valerie is left, his father is still a drunk mess, and his mother is not there. So basically, Stefan misses him and just wants to go home, and Damon sees images of death as he walks across the camp to the Colonel. He requests 2 weeks leave, but he is denied, and the Colonel sends Damon on a chore to arrest and bring back a group of deserters, and Damon talks to the friend he saved, and Henry, who is one of the people he's in the war with, and Henry asks him if he's certain that he wants to go on the mission. Damon says that he doesn't care about the war, and that he only enlisted to please his father, and that his father forced him to do this, and of course we know how controlling his father was, so it makes sense, and Damon said that the deserters made their bed, and now they are the ticket home. Now, let me first say that you guys know I wasn't a huge fan of the episode where we met their father and everything, but that was because that episode was trying to get us to sympathize with Lily and understand her situation. That was not the case with this episode. I don't think the point of this episode was to get us to sympathize with Lily. I think this episode was all about giving Damon that closure that he clearly didn't get. That's really what this was about. So Damon knocks on the door of the house and asks if the woman of the house can spare some dinner, and at first she refuses, but he knocks again, reminds her that it is her duty, which, that is true. I mean, back then, if you were asked to do something, you know, if a soldier said, hey, can I come in for dinner, you basically had to let them. You didn't get a say in that. I found that very interesting, but it's true. I mean, watch, like, movies on the Civil War. That stuff happened. So Henry decides to check the upper level. As Damon explains, it is his duty to check for deserters. He goes through his check, but is ambushed by 2 deserters hiding their guns at him. They ask him to turn around and go home, and he won't have any trouble. Meanwhile, Henry is behind the wall, comes out firing, and both Henry and Damon end up killing everyone in the house, and they're completely stunned and shocked at what they have done, and just seeing the horror on Damon's face, knowing that he did this, I mean, that's why I really thought, okay, this is a flashback. This is the first time that Damon ever committed a violent act because, we're used to, Damon is obviously used to blood and things like that, but here, he seemed like a scared individual, like he's never really killed before, and it really, really felt like a big turnaround. I really love this scene, and definitely really great stuff there, and basically, we see that there's real remorse on his face. He's not joking here. This is like real remorse. And Damon hears something in the cellar below, and when he goes to look, his mother emerges from the shadows. He knows that it's impossible to see her since she died of consumption, and she tells him that she's dead, and he made sure that. He says none of it makes sense. He begins to realize that his spirit is trapped, and he's forced to face his dead mother. He admits that what happened in the flashbacks really happened. She asks him if he ever took responsibility for his actions, and she says it's time to give himself up, and he says that they were deserters and they ambushed him, and he's enraged that something so old is keeping him trapped, and she tells him that the longer he keeps his trauma at arm's length, the harder it will be for him in the trapped hell. She tells him it's not about remorse, it's about punishment, but Damon then wakes up and seemingly in the present. He's now in the present, and he's now woken up, it seems. But Bonnie, we see, has gotten the spell to wake him up, and Bonnie tells him that he has been dead for 3 months, not just a day, but 3 months, and that is crazy to find out. And I was like, okay, so they were doing a bit of a time jump to get us closer to that 3-year gap. I understand that. That made sense to me. But then Bonnie pours Damon a drink, and she asks him if he's okay, and he says he's fine, but then Bonnie begins bleeding from the nose, and she says that she's fine, just very weak. It's clear that this spell was very hard for her to do, and, I mean, she's probably been trying to do this for 3 years. It definitely makes sense. So, she says that Caroline is now at Whitmore, and Alaric is a lecturer, and Matt is on patrol, and she basically tells them that everyone's moved on. Nobody was they were waiting, but obviously they had to move on with their lives because it's been 3 years. So, Bonnie breaks the news, though, that Stefan is also in his own hell. He's not happy to hear that he was pulled out first. He runs to check on the body of Stefan, but he and Bonnie realize that Stefan has actually been taken. So, obviously, they're all freaking out. There's a big meeting. Caroline is worried that Julian's going to torch Stefan's body. Damon wants to push Bonnie, but Matt and Caroline advise against it because she wasted so much energy trying to pull him back, and it's not a good idea for Bonnie to waste all of her energy because it's clear that she is very weak right now, and Damon asks that she try to find him, and she begins her spell. And Damon then offers Caroline a drink, but she says, of course, she's pregnant for 3 months, and she tells him that she begged Bonnie to get Stefan out first, but logic prevailed, and obviously it wasn't gonna work. Even though Caroline wanted it, Bonnie just couldn't do it. It had to be Damon first. So he asks her why he was pulled out before Stefan, and she tells him that they were afraid that he would lose his humanity, and they didn't want to do that. And we see that Bonnie is weakened even more, but they have found Julian's location, and Caroline says stays back to take care of Bonnie, and Damon meets with Julien, who has soaked Stefan in gasoline. Literally, he's gonna light Stefan on fire, and he tells Damon to sit down, and he and Julien sit down, and Julien asks to hear about all his time in the Civil War, and Julien then tells his story about being trapped in the stone and killing the love of his life every day. He says that he was in misery, but Damon says that he has a different experience. And Julien says that the stone did not help him and that he resisted facing the pain. Julien then burns Stefan's body. His mother shows up again. You start to realize that this is not real, and we then realize that he's not out of the stone. This is all fake, and he then wakes up again in the same exact day to relive his personal hell all over again, and I loved seeing this. I mean, I really give it to the show for doing something so ballsy. I mean, I really thought that, we're just gonna move forward with the plot, but no, basically Damon is going to relive the same day. So Damon receives the letter again, and is given the chance to break out of his hell again. He goes about business in mostly the same manner, and asks for leave again. This time he offers to help with the deserter problem instead of being reported about it. He clarifies the rules and then decides to go back on the mission. Damon is starting to see things differently than he did the first time, and he says that the men are his ticket out and he has to bring them back alive. So Damon bypasses all the areas that gave him trouble the last time because, that's just extra drama that caused him to do what he did, and he warns Henry to not go upstairs and asks the granny to put the knife down, stand by the table, and Henry is obviously not sure what Damon is doing because this is not what they did originally, but Damon explains to the ladies that he means no harm, and unfortunately another shootout occurs, and everyone but Damon dies, and it's even worse this time, and then he wakes up again, and basically he bypasses the locator spell that Bonnie had to conduct. However, when he leaves to get Stefan back, Stefan is actually alive here. He's out of the Phoenix Stone, and he tells him that it won't be necessary, and this time Stefan was pulled out first, and basically, Stefan says that he wants to skip to the part where he and his brother gets drunk and they cheer. Stefan asks what happened to Damon, and he recounts the Civil War saga, and Damon denies that what happened to him actually got to him, and Stefan continues to question him as to whether he felt anything, and Stefan makes sure he outlines the bleeding people in the farmhouse, and Damon tells his brother he isn't real, then kills him to reset the hell all over again, because now he's realizing what's going on. Obviously, he knows what's going on. The third time, Damon decides that he's going to solve the puzzle. He's not just going to do the same thing because it's not working. He's done the same thing and he's going to continue to relive the same day. And obviously, he doesn't want to do that. So meanwhile, everyone around Damon is still trying to get Damon up, but Stefan is actually alive. Now, this is the actual present. This is what's actually going on. We see that Stefan is actually alive. Bonnie and Stefan have a little tiff, but Stefan says that Damon isn't ready to be pulled out yet. He says the worst part about hell is the silver of hope that he can get out alive, and Stefan said that he got out to the suffering that breaks you. However, he doesn't believe that Damon is capable of doing that. You know, he doesn't feel that Damon really has any remorse over Lily's death, and he really feels that until Damon gets that remorse, he's not going to be pulled out. And he says that they need to get him out, and realizing that that's really why he's in the Phoenix Stone, and that's the way to get out, I think made this so much more interesting and so much more emotionally impactful. I mean, just realizing that Damon basically has to find a way to get some remorse and get that closure that he wanted, I definitely really love seeing. And yeah, it was true. Damon seemed to have no remorse. I mean, look back at that scene in the mid-season finale. He didn't give a shit that Lily died, it seemed. And we don't know what happened to Stefan, but that's not important. This was Damon's episode, and I really love that. Damon continues to go after the deserters, and now he is losing it. He's babbling off to Henry, and Henry, of course, has no idea what's going on. He thinks that he's very sick, but Damon realizes that his brother might be the solution for him to leave, that he needs to somehow find Stefan and contact him, but Henry insists that they head back to the camp, but Damon tells him to follow his lead. This time, he has everyone to come out of the house where Henry will watch them. He goes in alone to meet the deserters, asks them to come out or he will kill the host family. They lay their weapons down and come out at a time, but they toss a grenade, and then it all begins again. So he can, again, it did not work. He continues to go through the motions, but every time he doesn't seem to win. He's writing a letter to Stefan, asking him to never write him again, is losing it even more, and he just decides that enough is enough, and he decides he has to go straight to his brother by deserting to Mystic Falls, and he drops a bomb, takes off with his final words to Henry being that I'm no hero. And this is, of course, what Stefan was afraid of, that Damon is very slowly losing his humanity, and he's going to go back to where he has no remorse over what he's doing. And obviously, that is the reason why Damon is trapped in this Phoenix Stone. I think they really showed that very well here. He ventures to his house, but is greeted by his mother, who tells him to come in because she and some others have been expecting him, and that, of course, is the one thing that Damon is most afraid of, is seeing Lily. He doesn't want to see her, obviously, but he's faced to, because now that he has chosen to see his brother, he has to see Lily, and that's something that I loved here. So Damon walks into his home, asks where everyone is, but Lily tells him to keep his voice down because she can hear the Confederates coming for him, and she tells him to get down in the cellar if he wants to live, and while there, he finds his brother, and Damon tells his brother that he is the reason he took the mission to begin with, and Stefan says that he always has a reason, and pulls the cover off of Elena's coffin, and Stefan says it's not about what he does in her name, it's about what he does in her absence, and Stefan tells him to be quiet, and I did forget to say that in the first, what it seemed like in the first present scene where Damon was pulled out of it and Stefan wasn't there, Caroline said that the reason they wanted to, they didn't want to pull Damon out first is because they were worried that he would try to avenge Elena's death, and they didn't want to have to go, that he would try to get revenge on what happened to Elena. But it's clear that that's not really a big part of this. I mean, I think Damon still obviously wants to get his girlfriend back, but he's kind of realizing that he needs to take his time with that, and I think Damon is definitely finally realizing that that's not what's important right now. There's definitely more to face, and obviously, right now, Elena is not the number one priority. So Stefan then tells him to, and Stefan says that it's not about what he does in her name, it's about what he does in her absence, how he reacts to her, her sleeping, and how he, how would she feel with the way he was acting. That's really something that Damon needs to do. Elena right now is a motivation. That's what Damon needs, is she's a motivation to help Damon be human and get that humanity, because Elena would want him to have that humanity. And of course, we know what happens when you get rid of your humanity. It happened to Elena, it happened to Caroline, and it happened to Stefan. It doesn't end well when you turn off your humanity. And obviously, Stefan is very worried that Damon is going to turn off his humanity, and he does not want that to happen. So Stefan tells him to be quiet, and Damon asks what is going on, but Stefan asks him if Elena's influence on him is so weak that he can't tell right from wrong, and Stefan tells him that he's not sure if Elena will recognize him when he wakes up. Stefan continuously asks Damon what he wanted, and tells Damon to stop lying because he's not admitting what he really wanted. And Damon admits that all the time he wanted his mother. And this is when this gets incredible, because this is when everything starts to come out. Stefan tells him it's too late and relives the beginning of the dream, but is now forced to help Lily from under the carriage. And that is when everything comes out. And Ian Somerhalder in this scene, holy shit, incredible, incredible stuff, because now he has to face his mother. He just admitted that the one consistency that he did not have was his mother. Why was he so upset? Because his mother wasn't there. Now, he did say to Henry, that the first, the reason that he was reliving this particular scene is because this was the first time he ever had to kill, and this was the first time he felt remorse about something, and that's when he kind of started to lose it. Because if you remember, when we were first introduced to Damon on the show, he was a villain. He was a straight-up villain, and now he's definitely progressed, but he's definitely kind of going back in that path. Obviously, Stefan is worried that he's going to go back into that path, and he doesn't want that to happen. And then we get this amazing scene here, and I love this, and I thought this was incredible stuff. And basically, Lily's in pain. He says that she never came back to them, and he says that she could have never come back so many times and didn't. And Lily calls him sweet boy, says there's no time. She says, tell me what you want to say. And, he's saying why he didn't, have remorse, because the fact that she was never there, and she, believed Julien over them, and he just doesn't understand it. And finally, he breaks down, and this scene it felt so genuine. It felt like something that we've been missing all season, and it really is something I think we've been missing. We've been missing Damon's remorse, and it's not that Damon hasn't been great. He's been awesome. I love, the comical side of Damon, but he hasn't really shown any remorse towards Lily's death, so something has felt broken, and I like that the show really addressed that. And basically, he's crying, says he's so sorry. He says to give him a chance to make it right, to let her love him. He begs her, and she dies. He says no, then says it louder, and he just wanted that one final moment where she forgave him, because he's realizing that this is really all about forgiveness. He feels terrible that he never had remorse, because she was never there. The reason he would never felt fond about her is because she never was really in his life, in either of their lives. She kept abandoning them, and he obviously really broke him. And I think that's one of the reasons why Damon got so dark, was because of the fact that Lily left them. And then the end of the episode is truly incredible, and it definitely is going to be a problem here, because basically he wakes up to the spell with Bonnie chanting and says no. He looks around, says that they weren't done, and that he wasn't done, and Damon says he has to get her back. Stefan is there, tells him he's safe, but Damon says that one more time to send him back, and Stefan says it's not real. He snaps Matt's neck, stakes Caroline, then says he has to get back, and kills Bonnie too. Everyone is down, but for some reason, he's still there, and he says this isn't real. He looks at everyone on the floor, and Damon realizes that this time, it's real. This is not fake. This is actually happening, and now he has to face what he just did, and that's how the episode ends. And holy shit, was this a great episode. I mean, I can't get over how amazing this episode was. Ian Somerhalder just killed it in this episode. Every scene, he was so great. You felt that emotion here. I really feel this is one of his best episodes in years, because he really has had some great scenes in this show, but he hasn't really gotten to have this, I think, emotional confrontation with himself. And that is what this entire episode was. This entire episode was Damon questioning, why am I here? Why this scene? Why is this the worst moment in my life? Because he says it's the worst moment in his life, but he didn't really know why, and why he kept seeing these little things that didn't really seem to add up to anything. Why he kept getting these letters from Stefan. The one consistency is that his mom wasn't there, and he didn't get to really have that final moment with her that he wanted, and he still didn't get it, and it's really tragic. I really did feel bad for Damon here, more than I have all season. So there are a lot of questions here. First of all, is this the real present? I mean, if it is, then Matt's dead for good, and I know that's not true because Matt is definitely coming back, and Matt, as we know, is the only human in the show. So if he actually just snapped Matt's neck, then Matt is dead for good. I mean, I know you can't die from, you don't necessarily die from getting your neck broken, but Matt is definitely going to be in very, very critical condition, and we'll have to see what happens there. So is he actually in the present, or is he still in hell? I'm not really sure. I mean, we know we saw that scene of Bonnie trying to get him out of it, but was that, is that where we are right now? Is Damon still trapped in the rain, in the Phoenix Stone, or is he actually back in the real world? That's really my big question, is what's really going on there. What did Stefan see in the Phoenix Stone? It's clear that Stefan, definitely something happened, but we don't really know what happened there. It definitely seems like next week there's definitely going to be something that shocks him, and Caroline's going to have a very time talking about it. We'll have to see what happens there. That definitely is going to be very interesting. And my biggest thing now is what is going to happen with Julien, because I really feel that Damon is now going to be on this mission against Julien. He's going to take this all out on Julien. And is Damon going to go back to Dark Damon? I feel like having that final confrontation with his mother, I think, showed that he's not going to go back. He's going to try to redeem himself. He's going to try to get better, and he's going to try to do something about it. He's not just going to resort to, the way he is. He definitely wants to change, but now that he has seemingly killed everyone, I mean, obviously, Stefan and Caroline aren't dead, and Matt's probably not dead, and Bonnie's not dead either, but now that he's just attacked everyone and realizing that it's real, and realizing how crazy he really is, this obviously is going to be very interesting to see how this confrontation works out. But just, I can't get over how great this episode was. Because you know what this episode didn't have, guys? This episode didn't have Valerie, it didn't have Nora, it didn't have Mary Louise, it didn't have any of that. It barely had any action. I mean, it had the Civil War stuff going on, but I'm talking like full-on, like, plot twist. It didn't really have any of that. The entire episode was an emotional, hour for Damon, and it's just something that he needed, and I really thought this episode really was just so cathartic for Damon and for us, because I feel like we didn't really get closure for Lily's death. Lily just kind of died, and of course, she killed herself, but like I said, I really felt her death was very anticlimactic, and I feel like this was definitely making up for it. We're finally going to see Damon, having that emotional confrontation with Lily, getting to say goodbye to her, realizing that he really did want his mother. He just never really felt like he had one because she was never there for them, and she always picked Julien over them, and he's sick of it. He doesn't want her to pick Julien over them. He wants her to be there for them, and I really felt for him in that moment. But overall, guys, just such an incredible episode. I can't get over how amazing this episode truly was. Like I said, guys, I'm going to say it again. This is the best Vampire Diaries episode we have had in years, and yes, the Season 5 finale was amazing. Yes, the Season 6 finale was amazing. As amazing as those episodes are, they were not like this episode. The Vampire Diaries does not usually do single character focused episodes, and it's something I've wanted them to do for a very long time. I don't care that there were no flash forwards in this episode. I don't care because I've grown sick of them, honestly. And I know that Julie Plec is saying, oh, they're eventually going to connect, but I wanted an episode like this, and finally we got it. I am so happy that they actually did this episode. I absolutely loved it. But overall, guys, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I know that I've praised this episode enough. I cannot wait to see next week's episode, which I'm sure isn't going to be as great, because I know we're going to go back to the whole bullshit, and we're going to see probably Mary Louise and Nora again. I'm probably going to have some complaints on next week's episode, but it was just nice to see a very different kind of episode, and it's really something I've wanted for the show to do for a while. It seems like this season they've tried to do something different when they have, but at the same time they haven't. Just because Elena's not there, I mean, her presence has been there, definitely. You definitely feel like, Elena is still a part of the show in the sense that, like I said, she's really Damon's motivator, but obviously she's not there. But now with episodes like this, it's really regained, I think, my hope in the show. If they do episodes like this and they continue to, if the momentum of this episode continues, this could be a really great final half of the season. I really am hoping that this is the direction the season is going and that we get episodes as amazing as this one, because this episode was truly mind-numbing. I loved it. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I will see you guys in the next video, which will be for the mid-season premiere of the originals, which obviously I am hyped for, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.